The cabin lights dimmed to a warm gold, and Alana Baptiste adjusted the silk scarf at her neck, her reflection flickering against the polished airplane window. Outside, the tarmac gleamed in the glow of floodlights as luggage carts beeped in the distance and mechanics waved glowing wands like magicians of steel birds. It was a ritual she knew by heart. Hair pinned neat, lipstick carefully set, posture elegant but not stiff. To be an air hostess was to be half diplomat, half performer, and at least for her half dreamer. Alana was 29 and had spent almost a decade above the clouds. Born in Trinidad but raised partly in Brooklyn after her mother remarried, she had grown up with 2 accents on her tongue and one truth stamped into her skin: she was different, wherever she went. Her cocoa-brown complexion and tall, graceful frame made her stand out in every city she landed in. Some men admired her beauty, openly, pilots with confident grins, businessmen with slick charm, even fellow passengers with soft promises of, "Maybe I'll see you again." But the pattern never changed. The moment things deepened, when she allowed herself to believe, the old words returned like a curse. "You're stunning, but you're not really in my class. You wouldn't fit in with my family. We're from 2 different worlds." She had learned to smile through it, to hide the cracks in her heart behind the calm elegance of her profession. To love the skies was easier than to love men. The sky didn't judge. The sky didn't compare her to porcelain women in glossy magazines. "Alana," a fellow hostess, May, whispered, nudging her as they prepared to board passengers. "You look like you're lost in a poem again." Alana smiled faintly, shaking herself back to the present. "Just thinking. Long-haul flights make me philosophical." May chuckled. "Well, maybe this flight will surprise you." Alana raised a brow. Beijing surprises are usually turbulence or a passenger who insists his bag must fit in the overhead bin. But fate was listening. And fate had other plans. The flight from New York to Beijing was full of executives, tourists, and students. Alana welcomed each passenger with her practiced warmth, guiding families to their seats, helping an elderly woman tuck her cane away, soothing a nervous traveler who hated flying. Then he appeared. Boarding last, just before the doors closed, was a man who seemed to carry the night with him. Tall, sharp-featured, his suit tailored in a way that spoke of understated power rather than flash. His hair was neatly swept back, his jaw strong, his movements controlled. Alana's practiced smile froze for half a second when their eyes met. His were dark, steady, carrying a quiet intensity that unnerved her. "Welcome aboard, sir," she said smoothly, though her heartbeat had begun to stutter. "Seat 2A. He inclined his head politely. "Thank you." Just 2 words, but his voice, deep, calm, almost melodic, slid through her like music. She stepped aside as he passed, a faint trace of expensive cologne lingering in the air, subtle yet commanding. Alana had seen countless wealthy passengers. But there was something about this one, an energy she couldn't name. Something in her gut whispered that her life had just tilted off its axis. She quickly shook it off. Men like him, men with tailored silence and eyes that seemed to calculate galaxies, did not belong in her world. And she didn't belong in theirs. But the sky had always been a mischievous matchmaker. As the plane lifted into the night, cutting through stars over the Atlantic, Alana didn't know that the man in 2A would shatter every wall she had built around her heart. The cabin had settled into its rhythm's soft hum of the engines, the glow of seatbelt signs fading, passengers slipping into the ritual of long-haul travel. Some tucked blankets under their chins, others scrolled through glowing screens or ordered their first glass of wine. Alana moved gracefully down the aisle, tray balanced on her palm like it was weightless. Years of training had made her steady, even when turbulence rattled the sky. But tonight, she wasn't steady. Not inside. Her eyes kept drifting to 2A. He sat reclined, one hand resting lightly on the armrest, the other scrolling through a tablet. No noise, no fuss. Unlike the other executives in business class, he wasn't barking orders over Wi-Fi calls or snapping his fingers for attention. There was stillness about him, commanding without saying a word. When she approached, he looked up and it was as if those dark eyes had been waiting for hers. "Would you like something to drink, sir?" she asked, her voice calm though her pulse betrayed her. He studied her for a moment, not rudely, but like he was absorbing something unspoken. The water will be fine. Sparkling. She poured the glass, the fizz of bubbles punctuating the silence between them. As she handed it over, their fingers brushed briefly. The smallest touch, but it lit a spark in her chest she hadn't expected. "Thank you," he said again, that voice resonant and sure. Alana nodded, retreating with the practiced professionalism that had carried her through years of encounters like this. But something about him was different. She couldn't put a name to it. Hours later, midway over the Arctic, the cabin dimmed for rest. Most passengers dozed, screens flickering faintly in the dark. Alana walked quietly, checking belts, blankets, and comfort. At 2 a.m. he was still awake. Tablet closed now, gaze fixed out the window at the endless black sky. The glow of the moon silvered his profile, sharp against the glass. "Not sleeping?" she asked softly. He turned, a rare smile tugging at his lips. "The sky is too alive to waste on sleep." Alana blinked. Most passengers cursed long flights, desperate to land. Only a few people she'd met over the years spoke of the sky like a companion. She found herself smiling before she could stop it. "I've always thought that too," she admitted. "The world feels smaller from up here. Like the noise fades." Something shifted in his expression, as if her words had touched a hidden chord. "You see it," he said quietly. "Most don't." Their eyes held, and for a suspended second, the cabin, the engines, the duties, all of it disappeared. Just him, just her, and the endless stretch of stars outside. Then the chime of the galley door snapped her back. She cleared her throat. "If you need anything, just press the call button." He inclined his head. "What's your name?" Her professionalism wavered. Passengers asked all the time, usually with ulterior motives. But when he asked, it wasn't a line, it was a genuine question. "Alana," she said, softly. He nodded once. "Li Wei." The name lingered in the air between them, foreign yet fitting, like a secret she wasn't supposed to know yet. By the time they descended into Beijing's hazy dawn, Alana had convinced herself it was nothing. Just another wealthy passenger. Just another flight. She helped business class disembark, offering polite farewells. And then there he was again. Li Wei, suitcase in hand, pausing before stepping off the plane. "Thank you, Alana," he said simply. His voice carried weight, as if he wasn't thanking her for service, but for something unseen. And then he was gone. She told herself it didn't matter. She had seen countless men like him, tailored, untouchable, fleeting. He was no different. But deep down, something told her she hadn't seen the last of 2A. Beijing pulsed with energy the moment Alana stepped into the arrival hall. Travelers spilled through the gates, taxis honked outside, and the scent of roasted chestnuts mixed with jet fuel. It was always the same ritual for her: escort passengers, gather with the crew, check into the hotel. Just another stop in the endless carousel of cities. But this time felt different. She couldn't shake the name that still lingered on her lips: Li Wei. Later that evening, in her suite at the cruise hotel near Sanlitun, Alana sat on the window ledge overlooking the neon-streaked streets. Her phone buzzed with messages, friends sharing memes, her mother reminding her to call, an old flame sliding into her DMs with, "Still flying the world, pretty girl?" She sighed and put it down. Her reflection in the glass looked calm, composed, beautiful even, but she felt the old familiar ache inside. The ache of belonging nowhere. Too Caribbean for Brooklyn. Too Brooklyn for Trinidad. Too dark-skinned for men who wanted porcelain wives. Too independent for men who wanted trophies. She traced a finger down the cool glass. Why am I even thinking about him? He was just a passenger. Still, the way he had looked at her, as if she wasn't invisible in the crowd of uniforms and polite smiles, it lingered. The next morning, Alana joined her fellow hostesses for a quick breakfast before sightseeing. May was scrolling through her phone with wide eyes. "Did you hear?" she whispered. Li Tech just announced a new AI partnership with the Chinese government. Their CEO's making waves, youngest billionaire in the country. Crazy. Alana glanced over absently, sipping her tea. And? May tilted the screen. The headline read, "Li Wei, tech billionaire, expands global empire." The photo below nearly made Alana choke on her tea. It was him. Tua, the man who had sipped sparkling water at 38,000 feet and watched the stars like an old friend. Alana set the cup down slowly. Her fingers trembled, but she steadied them with effort. May grinned. Imagine being the kind of woman who catches his eye. Unreal. Alana forced a smile. Yeah, unreal. Her mind, however, was already racing. He knew who he was when he boarded. And he asked for my name anyway. That evening, crew members dragged her to a rooftop bar overlooking the city. Lanterns glowed red against the sky, music thumped low, and the air carried spice and smoke. Alana leaned against the railing, half listening to her colleagues' gossip, when the atmosphere shifted. Heads turned. Conversations hushed. And then he appeared. Li Wei. He wasn't in a tailored suit this time, but a sleek black shirt and jacket, casual yet undeniably powerful. Flanked by two associates, he moved through the crowd like the world parted for him. And then his eyes found hers. Her breath caught. He dismissed his companions with a subtle gesture and walked toward her. You again, he said, the faintest trace of amusement in his voice. Alana steadied herself, masking her surprise with a cool smile. Beijing is a big city. I didn't expect to see you twice in 24 hours. Neither did I. His gaze lingered. But perhaps the city is smaller than we think. Her colleagues exchanged wide-eyed glances, whispering furiously behind her. She ignored them, heat rising in her cheeks. Li Wei stood close enough now that she caught the faint scent of cedar and smoke on his jacket. Have you eaten? He asked simply, as if the question carried more weight than it seemed. Alana hesitated. She wasn't naive, men like him didn't just ask to share a meal. But the sincerity in his tone unsettled her. No, she admitted softly. Then join me. It wasn't a request. But it wasn't quite a command either. It was an opening doorway into a world she had always been told she didn't belong to. Her heart thudded in her chest. She could say no, return to her safe routine. Or she could step forward, just once, into the unknown. Alana lifted her chin. All right, dinner. A small smile touched his lips, almost imperceptible. Good. And just like that, the sky she thought she knew began to rewrite itself. The car ride itself felt like a dream. Alana had expected a taxi, maybe a sleek black sedan. Instead, a chauffeur-driven Bentley waited outside the rooftop bar, its polished chrome gleaming against the Beijing night. Her colleagues nearly fell over themselves whispering as she slid into the leather interior beside Li Wei. You didn't have to send a car, she murmured, smoothing her uniform skirt. He glanced at her, expression unreadable. I don't take taxis. She almost laughed, but something in his tone told her it wasn't arrogance, it was fact. A man who lived in a different orbit. A man who hadn't stood in line for anything in years. The city streaked past the windows in neon colors, scarlet lanterns, golden billboards, rivers of headlights. Alana pressed her palms into her lap, grounding herself. She had spent years serving men like him. She had never sat beside one. They stopped in front of a discreet building with no sign, only a carved wooden door. Two attendants bowed them inside. The restaurant was unlike anything she had seen: low golden lighting, silk screens painted with cranes, soft gouging music drifting in the background. There were no menus. No chatter of tourists. Only a handful of tables, each separated by panels of bamboo. Alana's heels clicked nervously on the polished floor as they were led to a private alcove overlooking a koi pond. The fish shimmered orange and white under lantern light, circling slowly. She sat. He sat across from her, every movement deliberate, unhurried. A server poured tea. Another set down plates of dishes she couldn't name: delicate dumplings, translucent slices of fish, bowls of fragrant broth. You don't have to pretend to like everything, Li Wei said, watching her. Order what you want. She blinked, caught off guard. I don't even know what half of this is. His lips curved slightly. Then I'll show you. For a while, they ate in silence, guiding her with chopsticks, her laughing at her own clumsy attempts, his gaze softening each time she succeeded. Finally, she set down her cup. Why me? His eyes lifted to hers. Women throw themselves at men like you, she continued, voice steadier than she felt. Rich, powerful, mysterious. And yet you remembered my name. I don't understand. The koi rippled below, their tails slicing golden arcs in the water. Li Wei leaned forward slightly, resting his elbows on the table. Do you want the truth? Yes. You looked at me like I was a man. She frowned. What else would you be? He studied her as if weighing her soul. Most people look at me and see the money, the empire, the power. You didn't. On the plane, when you spoke of the sky, you saw something I thought I had lost. Alana felt her throat tighten. And what's that? He held her gaze. Wonder. The word hung in the air between them, fragile, luminous. Their food was cleared. Dessert arrived, slices of chilled mango, glistening under ice. Alana lifted her fork, but Li Wei's voice stopped her. You should know, he said carefully, being close to me isn't simple. My world is not forgiving. There are people who would never accept you by my side. People who would call you unworthy. Her chest ached at the word unworthy. She had heard it before, from men in suits, from families who smiled politely but dismissed her as too poor, too foreign, too dark. She straightened her shoulders. I've been unaccepted my whole life. That doesn't scare me anymore. For the first time that evening, Li Wei's mask cracked. A flicker of something, respect, admiration, maybe even desire shone in his eyes. He nodded slowly. Good. Then you may survive me. Alana told herself she would sleep. She even dimmed the hotel lights, curled under the crisp white sheets, and counted the rhythm of her breath. But her mind refused to be still. Li Wei's voice echoed, You may survive me. What did that even mean? Was it a warning? A challenge? Or an invitation? She finally drifted into restless dreams, only to be awakened at dawn by the soft chime of her phone. It wasn't a text. It was an email. From LW. Subject: The sky is clear. Meet me at 9 a.m. in the hotel lobby. We're something comfortable. Do it. Her pulse hammered. It wasn't phrased like a question. It wasn't dressed up in charm or persuasion. It was simple, direct, a door left open if she dared step through. For a moment she considered deleting it, pretending it never arrived. She was an air hostess, not some heiress. She had no place in his world. But then she saw herself clearly, the reflection she'd been avoiding. A woman who had flown across oceans yet always been told she was too much or not enough. Not this time. Alana closed the laptop. All right, Li Wei, she whispered. Let's see what your world looks like. At 9 sharp he was there. Not in the Bentley this time, but in a discreet black SUV. He stepped out himself to greet her, dressed in dark jeans and a white shirt that looked deceptively simple but fit him with the precision of a man who never wore anything off the rack. You came, he said. You invited, she replied. His lips curved faintly, and he opened the door for her. The city gave way to rolling landscapes, the SUV cutting through highways lined with willow trees. Neither spoke for a long stretch, the silence not uncomfortable, but charged. Finally she asked, Where are we going? We'll see. An hour later, they entered a gated estate nestled in the hills. The car rolled to a stop before a minimalist villa of glass and stone, overlooking a valley of peach blossoms. The petals shimmered in the morning light, drifting like pale snow. Alana stepped out, breath-catching. This is yours. One of them, Li Wei admitted as if embarrassed. I come here when I need to think. Inside, the villa had spare yet elegant walls of books, calligraphy scrolls, a grand piano in one corner. It was the kind of place that whispered money, but not ostentation. He gestured toward the terrace. Come. They stood side by side, watching the blossoms stir in the breeze. For a moment, it felt less like a billionaire's world and more like a hidden pocket of peace. Why me, really? Alana asked suddenly. Li Wei's gaze lingered on the valley before settling on her. Because you remind me of who I was before all this. She frowned. And who was that? His jaw tightened. A boy who dreamed of building something. Before the investors. Before politics. Before every person I met wanted something from me. Alana studied him quietly. Beneath the layers of power and wealth, she saw the flicker of loneliness, the isolation she knew too well. "I don't want anything from you," she said softly. His eyes searched hers, sharp yet uncertain, as if testing her words for cracks. Then, without warning, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small black velvet box. Her heart lurched. Too soon? But when he opened it, there was no ring, only a slim, silver key. "This," he said quietly, "is the key to this villa. I want you to have it." Alana froze. "You what?" "I've known you for 2 days." "I don't give gifts easily," Li Wei said, voice low, steady. "But I trust my instincts. And my instinct tells me you belong here." Her hands trembled as he pressed the key into her palm. It was cold, heavy. Symbolic. She should have refused. She should have laughed, told him he was insane. But instead, she closed her fingers around it, as if fate had just placed a new chapter in her hands. The air thickened between them. He stepped closer, close enough that she could see the faint scar above his brow, the tiny detail that made him human. "Alana," he murmured, her name like silk in his mouth. Her breath caught. For one heartbeat, the world hushed. No planes, no passengers, no blossoms, only the two of them suspended on the edge of something dangerous and irresistible. Lips brushed hers. It was tentative at first, as if he were asking permission. But when she didn't pull away, when her fingers clutched the edge of his shirt, the kiss deepened. His mouth was warm, demanding, yet careful, as though he feared she might vanish if he pressed too hard. The blossoms swirled around them like witnesses, the valley bathed in sunlight, the world narrowing to the taste of his smoke, steel, and something unexpectedly tender. When they finally pulled apart, her breath came uneven, her heart racing like turbulence. Li Wei rested his forehead against hers. "Alana," he murmured, voice roughened, "you have no idea what you've done to me." Her fingers trembled against his chest. "Maybe I do." They sat together on the terrace, the silence after the kiss both soothing and electric. He poured her tea from a porcelain pot, his movements graceful, precise. But Alana noticed something. His hand, steady as it was, bore faint scars along the knuckles. Not the marks of a sheltered billionaire. These were old, hidden, unspoken stories. She traced them lightly with her fingertip. Where did these come from? For the first time, he stiffened. The mask returned. "A long time ago. Before I became who I am now." "You mean before the empire," she said softly. His eyes flicked to hers, unreadable. "Before the enemies." Her chest tightened. She had known wealth drew rivals, but the way he said it cold, final, as if danger was stitched into his very being. And yet, instead of retreating, she found herself leaning closer. As the sun dipped lower, Li Wei stood. "Stay here tonight," he said. Not a question, an invitation addressed as a command. Alana's heart leapt. "And what happens if I do?" His lips curved faintly. "Then you'll see what it means to step into my world. No masks. No distance." Her instinct screamed caution. But another voice, the one that had carried her across continents and into the unknown skies, whispered that some risks were worth the fall. She looked down at the silver key still resting in her hand, cool against her skin. And then she nodded. The villa transformed at dusk. Soft lanterns lit the terrace, glowing like captured stars. The valley below was bathed in silver light, the blossoms now pale ghosts drifting in the... Find out what happens in their relationship in the next episode, which is coming up soon, by clicking on the notification icon. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the story, please do not forget to like and subscribe to our channel. Also tell us the country you are watching us from in the comments section so that we will make a story for you.